Hello everyone, Andrew here, and today I'm going to be doing another video response to edt1138's latest Top 3 Tuesday. And this week's question is, what are the top 3 games that you had to fight to get? I don't normally have to fight to get my games. I understand the question because sometimes you go to thrift stores and maybe there'll be someone there and they have a game that you want, so you kind of have to argue with them to get it. Or maybe you'll see a local class field and it's like whoever gets there first gets it. Or a sort of situation like that. Although overall I haven't really had too many situations like that where I actually had to argue with someone or really beg or something like that to get a game from them. Although there is one story that I could think of. And I watched Will Graham 13's video response, which was awesome. He's a really cool guy. He's always commenting on my videos and stuff like that. And yeah, I left a comment to his video response and I was just saying, I don't really have enough material to do a top 3, but all I can really think of is there was one time where after I bought a whole bunch of boxed NES games, this guy came over and yelled at me, and he says, well, actually, that might just be a pretty cool story to hear on its own. Do a top 1 Tuesday or something like that. So I thought about it, and I figured it is a pretty funny story, so I would just do a video response to that, with that. So I'm only going to have one thing to talk about in this video, even though it's supposed to be a response to a Top 3 Tuesday. But anyway, without further ado, so yeah, my story goes is that I went to a Value Village, which is like a thrift store here in Canada. I don't believe they're in the US. So yeah, so I went to a Value Village, just like I always do, and I headed over to where the video games were. And the Value Village, they kind of put all of their video games into bags, and then they have these tags, and the tag has the price on it, and also has a little hole in it where they'll be able to use that to hang it on a hook. So I went over to where the video games are usually hanging on the wall. If you want to see a bag like that, I actually showed one in my last pickup video. I got 2 Super Famicom games in the bag like that. But anyway, so I went over to where the bags usually are on the wall, and right in front of where the video games usually hang, there was a cart with about 10 boxed NES games in it, and they all had these tags and stuff like that. And so I saw this cart, and I mean, it was there was no one around it. So I mean, there was no one around me. I didn't see anyone that I thought this cart probably belonged to. So I just figured, okay, someone is putting away these video games, and they just put the cart here, but they didn't get a chance to put them away yet. Yeah, I definitely looked around, I made sure that the cart didn't belong to anyone, so I just figured that was the case, because, I mean, it's a common thing for people who put away stuff in stores to, push around a cart with those things in it before they put them away. So I figured, okay, these just haven't been put away yet, so I took the 10 boxed NES games out of the cart, and they were priced at $2.99 each, and I love NES, and I didn't have any of these games at the box. Although I did have all but one of them loose, so, but anyways, $3 for a box game I didn't have. I thought it was a great deal, especially since I love NES. So yeah, I took all the boxed games, I walked around the store, looking for other things. I didn't find anything though, so then I went and paid for these boxed games. And just as I was walking out the door, this guy comes and starts yelling at me. He's like, "Hey you!" And then, so I look over, and he's like, "Hey, you took those NES games out of my cart," and I was like, "Whoa." I had no idea that they belonged to you, because, I mean, there was no one around this cart. I mean, if you found these 10 boxed NES games, I'd be, guarding the cart with my life. I mean, maybe not. But, I mean, I would definitely be taking better care of them, because I didn't see this guy anywhere near here, because I actually know this guy. He's always at thrift stores and stuff like that, and I would have felt kind of bad for taking these games from his cart if he was a collector or something like that, but he's not. This guy, he's one of those guys where he just goes around the thrift stores, buying old candlestick holders and golf clubs and other knickknacks, just so he can go and sell them on eBay. And I've heard he has, garage sales during the summer and stuff. So I didn't feel bad at all that I had just taken these games out of his cart, but I didn't even see this guy in the store. While I was looking around, so I have no idea where he was hiding while I was taking these games out of his cart. He must have been, on the other side or something like that. So, I mean, I hate, when people just leave their carts and they go to other sections of the store. I mean, take it with you. I don't know why he would leave it. Yeah, he was angry because I took these games out of his cart, and I was like, hey, I just thought they were about to be put away, so I took them. Because, I mean, if it turned out that they were just about to be put away, and I hadn't have taken them, and then someone else had taken them instead, I would have, regret it forever. But yeah, so anyway, I took them, and I already paid for them, so there was nothing I could really do about it then. Although, I didn't feel bad in the slightest, because it was this guy, and he doesn't buy, all video game things, but he usually buys boxed things. I've seen him buy, boxed consoles and other boxed games and stuff like that. Usually he was, he doesn't, he's, like I said, he's just one of those guys who buys anything he thinks he can make money on, but he doesn't really know the value of, what certain video games are worth. So if he saw Earthbound loose, he probably wouldn't grab it because he doesn't know how much it's worth. But I guess he figures that box things usually are worth quite a bit sometimes. So no matter what it is, as long as it's boxed, you can make a bit of money for it. So yeah, he usually grabs box things anyway. But yeah, anyway, so it was this guy's cart, and it was hilarious. Because like this guy, he just goes and sells it to other people. It's not like he's a collector. So I didn't feel bad in the slightest for taking these things out of his cart. I was like, hey, sorry, there's nothing I can do about it now. Maybe you should know, like, not leave your cart on the other side of the store while you go looking for, like, your golf clubs or whatever. But yeah, I mean, like, if it was a collector, and, like, I genuinely, like, I'm not, like, what I'm trying to say is, I mean, I didn't really mean to take the things out of his cart. I mean, even if it was him, if I had known it was his cart, I wouldn't have taken them out. But the funny thing is that I did end up taking them out, and it did end up belonging to him, so it is kind of funny in the end. But yeah, if it was a collector, I probably would have made some kind of deal, like sell him a few of them, or something like that, because I would have felt bad. But not for this guy, not at all, because he's kind of a pain. And he usually gets a hold of some things that I might have bought, if he hadn't have grabbed them. But yeah, so I ended up getting those boxed NES games, and he didn't, which was actually quite awesome. And one of those games was Donkey Kong Jr. This was the game that I didn't have even loose, so it was kind of neat to get the box for it too. It's definitely not in good shape though. It kind of has like a half ripped off sticker on the front, and the back also has a big chunk out of it. But luckily, the game is still actually in perfect shape, despite the box's condition. A lot of the original black box NES games have that problem where there'll be like a chunk out of the back, because originally they had like a tab where it could have come out and you could have like hung it on a hook. Like I'll show you one here. Gumshoe, you can kind of see in the right light where this part kind of comes up and you could have hung it. So I mean that's flimsy and not very well made, so that rips off in a lot of cases. So it's pretty common to find black box NES games that have that problem. But overall, I didn't have the game anyway, so it wasn't really too big of a deal. I'm just happy to get the game. And maybe I'll find a better box someday, but anyway, I'm not too worried about it. But yeah, that's kind of what happened. So, I mean, he was like screaming and yelling at me. He was like taking these games out of his cart. But it's what you get for leaving your cart alone and like going to completely some other side of the store. And it's what you get for being a reseller, too. I mean, if he was a collector, then yeah, obviously I would have felt a lot worse. Because I wouldn't want people taking things out of my cart. Although I would never leave my cart with 10 boxed NES games in it completely alone and go to who knows where. Just like leave it completely unattended. But yeah, so overall, I always thought that was kind of a funny story. And yeah, I didn't feel bad about it in the slightest once I found out who it belonged to. Because he's always grabbing things and stuff like that that I might want. So kind of like revenge or something like that. But yeah, that's really the only story I have for this week's Top 3 Tuesday. Because like I said, I don't really have too many like arguments over video games and fights and stuff like that. Luckily, there are a lot of cases where I like grab things just before like maybe I see other people in the store, and I luckily get the things before they do. But I mean, it's not really like a fight or anything like that. Anyway, interesting question still, and hopefully people enjoyed that story. I've always thought it was one of the funniest things, and yeah, it's kind of funny. But yeah, anyway. I believe that's all for this week's video response to edt1138's Top 3 Tuesday. So thanks for watching. I hope you enjoyed my one thing. And see you next time for something different. So thanks, and see you then.